All right, my friends, it's T, and I'm back with a brand new video again. And I've done a video before on this guy. It's calisthenics guy. His name is Jack H. Woods. So I'm gonna do a reaction to this video, and maybe I don't know, give some of my opinion and whatever, some facts, whatever, of my own in this video. This guy's really smart, and I think it's a worthwhile watch. Okay. So, Jack H. Woods says, the secret to getting insanely strong, it's not what you think. Exactly, it's not what you think, I know. Gotta lift a heavy weight, gotta get those numbers. That's gonna make you strong, right? You know what? Think again, dude. Think again, man. This guy's really smart. He's young, but he's pretty smart.
In this video, I'm going to share with you the secret to getting insanely strong, which has allowed me to go from a very dedicated, consistent, but frustrated trainee, not getting the results that I wanted with my strength and physique, to gaining all the strength you see me with now, and as a result, having the physique that comes along with that.
And I'll tell you what that is. He's actually building real muscle, unlike people that go to a gym, lifting concentrically, squeezing ass cheeks. Get it? Concentrically squeezing their muscles all day. The difference between calisthenics, here's the thing. He's using calisthenics to build his body. It's because a lot of, like I said, people fail in the gym. Eccentric is what builds muscles. And calisthenics does a lot of eccentric work. He may not really understand that. He may not really see that in his mind because he's not thinking about it. It's not really there. So he doesn't really, maybe he doesn't even know what's building the muscle. He just thinks the exercise is building the muscle. The truth is, it's the eccentrics that build muscles because the constant tension and micro tears that are being caused doing these particular exercises are going to make him brutally strong. By how? By growing more muscles. Yeah, get it, dude? Exerting more force, yes.
By doing just 40 minutes of training a week, the same secret that's allowed me to teach dozens of other people how to do the same thing, starting from the ground up, from absolute beginner level all the way to advanced. The people I see who are spending a lot of their time training in the gym or otherwise and are seeing no real changes in their physique are all...
I know. A lot of people, the 99.9% are the people that go to the gyms and never see changes in their physique. Want to know why? Because they're comfortable, they're very comfortable just lifting concentrically. They never want to leave their comfort zone and lift high intensity eccentric lifts, eccentric overload. They don't want to do that. They don't want to damage their muscles. They don't want to damage them. They don't want to go through the pain. They don't want to go through the repair and remodeling, regeneration. They don't want to go through that weakness, soreness, range of motion, loss of power, strength, all that. They don't want to go through that. And so they can't get what they want. And therefore, they're all complaining about fake natties and this and that, screaming and yelling out there, doing a bunch of weird shit, bro. And then they're trying to fake it. In the end, they all try to fake it. That's what they do. They fake it in the end. So, yeah.
All missing this, and by contrast,
and it's funny when I see them do their arms, they're like full concentric to the top, and they're doing like, I don't know, I think it's like, let's just say they're just using a stack of weight. Let's say they're using the cable machine to do their arms. They always go to cable machine, they're like it's always concentric, squeezing at the top, and they're just doing like, I don't know, maybe 30 pounds on there, 30 pounds. Meanwhile, I come up to them and I show them, I go, look, you could do this eccentrically, the whole fucking stack, and just pull it up. Just pull it as high as you can up and let it go down again. And then they're like, what? And then they're like, and then, you show them and everything. And then they go back to doing the same thing again, doing their light little shitty work. So there's no point in educating these people in the gym because they're just going to go back to their comfortable lifting. And then they want to complain about why they're not getting any gains and their body's not changing. Your body doesn't change in eccentric form. Eccentric is great for, the nervous system, maybe lifting something heavy eventually, but that doesn't change your body. That doesn't change your body. What changes your body is eccentric exercises. They really change your body. That's why people take steroids, because they see no change. And so they want to go the fake route, the cosmetic route, the fake route, drugs.
the people who are all absolutely jacked and getting stupidly strong, regardless of how much time they spend training.
Yep, jacked and stupidly strong. That's what he is, dude. He is.
Or the specifics of their approach, they have all absolutely dialed this thing in. So what is this secret? Well, first, a bit of context. Why do we want to get insanely strong in the first place, apart from it being a cool party trick? Strength for the sake of strength is not really that exciting or worth worrying about. But there are two things that strength gives us if we can get it to a high enough level. The first is muscle mass, which is going to allow us to look good. If we want to be ripped, lean, toned, have a great physique, we need as much muscle mass on us as possible. The more the better, and strength is the way that we get our bodies to build that muscle. And the second reason is that the mobility, the functionality that having high levels of strength gives us means that we can function well, be pain-free, and stay healthy as we age, able to do the things we want to do, rather than breaking down. So for vanity reasons, which are
Exactly, as you age, and you're not going to age doing this because it's regenerative. That's why it doesn't age you. This stuff doesn't age you. It makes you look young. That's why they look so good. When you look at calisthenics guys, you're like, what the fuck? They're all jacked. They all look good at everything. Why? Why is that? Because it's regenerative, because it's based on eccentric exercise.
very fair, and for longevity, health, lifestyle reasons. We want as much strength as we can possibly build. And the basic way that we build that strength.
Yeah, but you can only build so much muscle doing these body weight eccentric exercises. Eventually, you'll tap out. It'll tap out. Here's the thing. What do they do? Then they just do more of it. So it's an overworking now of that muscle. So you have to do more of something that you're unaccustomed to doing to try to get more out of it. In fact, in bodybuilding, we don't do that. We do the opposite. We do more, but we are able to lift. We are able to use weight as doing more like heavy weights to cause more of this damage, to create more muscle out of it eccentrically. So we just keep progressively overloading the eccentric. That's what we do. And remember, eccentric can take more weight than concentric can. See what I mean? So, yeah, superior in every way.
Is a process of signaling and adaptation, training and recovery. So what happens is we do some training.
I'll agree. Signaling and adaptation. What's the signaling in eccentric exercise? Growth factors. What is the signaling? The damage. If there's no damage, there's no growth. Growth ceases when there's no damage. Growth stops, and I can prove it. Look in my community section. When growths, I post them there all the time. Growth stops. When damage stops, growth stops. There's no more growth. People think that they can grow by lifting concentrically. You can't grow. You can't grow doing your little light workouts and shit and all that, whatever. And you can't grow by doing the big four heavy. I'm going to lift a heavy weight in the gym concentrically. That's not going to do it either, unfortunately. Ass cheek squeezing ass cheeks doesn't make you grow.
With the idea that that's the...
Well, if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, because it is based on metabolic fatigue, so you are just fatiguing your muscles lifting concentrically, well, that will help to load more glycogen in the muscle, and you misconstruing that for being jacked or having muscle, which is actually fake, because I see guys that are around me, like I'm big, and they come in, they look kind of big too, but they're weak. When they move weight, they don't move the same weight that I do. When I'm next to them, they look at me and I'm moving stacks of weight. You know, they're doing triceps. I'm doing triceps, but I'm doing it in such a way to damage, and I'm going super heavy. And they're trying to go heavy, but they're ass cheek squeezing. I'm not squeezing my ass cheeks on the triceps. They're squeezing ass cheeks at the bottom. Me, I'm just pulling, making sure I'm getting damaged heavily. So yeah, so I'm using more tonnage, but yeah, they're just looking over. They try to intimidate you with their body, their weak body filled with like glycogen walking around. But I know my body's stronger than theirs. Want to know why? Because I actually have real muscle. I can handle myself. I have real muscle. That's the difference. Fake muscle and real muscle. Real muscle is stronger than fake muscle.
Sends a signal to our body to tell it, hey, we want more strength. We want to build muscle tissue and be stronger. We don't get stronger when we do that training.
Yeah, you don't tell your body to do that. You make it happen. You make it happen. You damage it, make it happen.
It starts a cascade of biological signaling that gets those processes of growth and improvement, adaptation, in motion.
Yeah, the damage does that. That's what it does. It activates the growth factors.
So then we go away, and while we're chilling out, sleeping, eating, working, doing all the things we do in our lives, our body's recovering and building that new muscle tissue to be stronger. And And then we come back a week later, or however long it is, and we send the signal again that, hey,
Yeah, you come back a week later and then you repeat again the same cycle. That's what you do. That's what we do in bodybuilding. He's doing the same thing in calisthenics. It's only body weight. That's the difference.
we want to be stronger than we are now. And then the body grows and adapts and gets stronger. Now, the thing that most people miss,
It adapts by growing bigger and stronger. That's how it adapts. It's kind of obvious to these whatever your thing is that you're doing there. Also, there is some nervous system too. I mean, you are practicing at the same time to get good at doing these movements, what he's doing, like the body weight movements, the handstands and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, you could transition from eccentric bodybuilding to this calisthenics and start doing those. You still have to practice at doing these things. But bodybuilding is a carryover to every sport because bodybuilding's not a sport. It's based on building your body big and strong. Now, people that go to the gym and want to impress people by lifting, heavy weight concentrically, well, they're just wasting their time. They're just going in there to try to impress people and impress themselves. I don't go to gyms to impress people. If I did that, then I would never be able to progress. That's why they're regressing.
People get both parts of this wrong. And I spent a lot of time talking about how important it is to realize that
Those small, strong guys that run around the gym, they say, I'm a small, strong guy. And I run around and I lift a heavy weight. And I show all the big guys that I'm a small, strong guy. I can lift a heavy weight. Yeah, those kind of guys. Yeah.
growth happens here without the recovery, the time in between training.
Yeah, growth happens during the repair and the remodeling phase. Blood levels are elevated, protein synthesis is extended, and glycogen till till those muscles have repaired and remodeled, and then you repeat that cycle.
We don't get stronger, we don't build anything. But the secret I want to talk about today comes down to how effectively we send this signal.
I like how he says that. You don't get stronger, we don't build anything. In concentric, they're not building anything other than their nervous system is getting tweaked to lift a heavy weight.
To our bodies to grow. And the principle is this. Let's say our strength is on the y-axis here, and this is time. At any point in time, we're sitting.
People don't even understand that concentric lifting is based on performance. You're performing, you want to look cool performing. And then you suck later in the gym. So, yeah, I'm not performing when I go to the gym. So every week I come back, I'm looking brutally bigger and stronger. So now all the eyes are on me, what I'm doing. But do you think anybody mimics what I'm doing? No, they won't do anything that I'm doing. See what I mean? And I keep moving from weight to weight. Sometimes I'm like pulling this and I go over there, pull that. And I'm going as heavy as possible, but eccentric loading. See what I mean? It's not. I'm not concerned about the concentric. I'm not concerned about concentric. I'm using the concentric, of course, to initiate the pull, but I'm more interested in the eccentric. What's going on there? Making sure that I'm getting damaged in my session. Because what's the point of going to the gym if I don't get damaged? Then I've wasted my time going to the gym. That's why 99.9% of people go to gyms, waste their time exercising. I'm not going there to exercise. I'm going there to build my body.
This is our current level of strength. We want this to improve. Let's say that anywhere below this is strength that we have access to. We could use as much strength that we wanted between these limits. This is lying down, not using any muscles, and this is working at the threshold of our strength. What most people miss with strength training is that to be an effective signal, we need to be working at the threshold of our strength. Because by doing that, we signal to our bodies that we're using currently all the resources that we have at our disposal, and to keep us alive in future, to make sure that we can deal with the demands of our environment, we probably want more of a buffer than that. And so the beautiful thing about human physiology is that when we test its true limits and use everything we've got, when it goes and recovers and does this cycle of adaptation, it builds in buffer. And so then we get a bit weaker, but we come back stronger once it's done its recovery.
Exactly. You get a little bit weaker in eccentric exercise. How do you get weaker? Well, it tells you in science you get weaker. I mean, range of motion, loss of force production, soreness, weakness, a bunch of stuff. So you get weaker because, and plus you get weaker, plus you get smaller in that phase because you lose muscle you have to be willing to lose some muscle in order to gain more muscle in that session. Because when it becomes damaged, the macrophage comes out and cleans up the dead tissue because it's dead, because it's been damaged. See what I mean? So it comes out to clean it with the progenitor cell, and then it starts building. That's the point. So you always have to get a little bit smaller to get a little bit bigger. So every time you come back every week and you do a damaging session eccentrically, you get a little bit smaller, but then you get even bigger. So in the beginning, you're not really seeing a lot the first, second, third, fourth week, but by the time you hit the 6th, 7th, 8th week, now you're really starting to see things come out like massively, like you're going to look brutally like thick, massive, and fucking, really dense and shit. And you're going to be even super strong. You're going to be super fucking strong, dude. Every time you come back, bigger and stronger. That's what happens.
An adaptation. And so now we have a new level. Now we have...
You have an adaptation. And that's your goal in a gym bodybuilding is to do what? Is to shoot for a new adaptation. That is the goal.
Have more strength within our capacity. But if we keep doing the same training, then there's no need for the body to actually get stronger and overcompensate because we're well within our limit. And most people...
Right, that's right. That's concentric lifting.
Training most of the time sits somewhere in this region below our maximum threshold. The only way that we will grow stronger at anywhere close to the rate that our body is capable of changing is if every time we train, we are going as hard as possible, as heavy as possible with the training that we do so that we actually test the limits of our strength, use every bit of strength in our current capacity, and therefore signal an adaptive response rather.
And I agree with them. That's what I do when I go to the gym now. That's why I came out and explained to people you need to overload the eccentric. If you do eccentric overload training, that will maximize growth, bro. Get it? See what I mean? So you want to maximize it by doing what? Eccentric overload. You want to constantly forget about concentric lifting. Just keep overloading the eccentric. Forget about concentric. Eventually, you'll get really good at concentric in the end if you want to show off. But during that period of time when you keep coming back to build your body, every time you're able to move the weight now concentrically, you need to move it eccentrically. Because if you can move it concentrically, you won't get an adaptation. You need to, that means that the eccentric is too light. You need to keep overloading it. See what I mean? And eventually you'll max out all the cable machines. You'll max them out because I pretty much almost maxed them all out except for my rear delts on the 2 cable machines. I'm doing 2 cables, 2 sides. I think I'm at 90 kilos now, which is 200 pounds. 200 pounds on each side, crisscrossing for the rear delt. For the rear delts. I think it goes up to 90, 100. I think it goes up to 110 or 20. I think the weight's there where I'm at the gym. I'll probably max them out. There's only two weights left on it. So yeah, and as far as the pulling, I've already maxed them out. I put these little stacks of weights on top and whatever. Even pulling with one arm is not enough for me anymore. I have to put like 45-pound plates on there, whatever. So I'm pretty much maxing them all out. For reps and sets, whatever. So I move plus I'm moving for like more. That's why you have what do you call it? Free weights. You need free weights. You can use a lot of free weight, heavy. That's the whole point. Smith machine is really good too for some specific things if you're using them. I don't know. Can help. But free weight's amazing, yes, too. Going much heavier now all the time, much heavier. You're assisting too sometimes. You're assisting to keep pushing. You're using your left hand and your right hand to move the weight and then lower it with one arm. You're constantly assisting yourself now at some point. Because you want to keep maxing it out and getting these adaptations. You want to cause damage. You don't want to go to the gym and play with the weights, do you? Concentrically, ass cheek squeezing ass cheeks.
And just recovery back to baseline. Basically, to get strong, you need to be going as heavy as you possibly can because everything else is a waste of time. Imagine.
That's right. Everything else is a waste of time. You need to go as heavy as possible in the eccentric form. That's what he's not telling you.
Effective strength training, the stuff that gets you stronger and builds muscle tissue, is when you're sprinting. A flat out 100% as far.
Yeah, I've mentioned that in my videos. That's why I did running videos on sprinting. I did them on my old channel, and these guys asked me again to do them on here, and I did a few. If you go back, I did some videos on sprinting. I talk about it, running downhill, right? Causing damage, running downstairs or running down a hill or whatever, causing damage to the muscle fiber. Why? Because it has everything to do with making you faster. Strength, power, speed, and performance. Remember, strength, power. We're trying to increase what? Strength, power, speed, and performance. How? By building our body big and strong. We don't want to just be performing slaves doing concentric lifts. We want strength, power, speed, and performance. So we want everything. Get it? So as a runner, you want it all. You want it all.
Fast as possible. You apply that to lifting that looks like struggling, straining to be able to move whatever resistance you're using to do your strength training. Most people when they're training are sitting somewhere around a light jog. They just never get anywhere near their limit, and they can spend hours and hours and hours doing that jogging, or maybe it's a brisk walk. But because they never
Yeah, that's what all the lifters are doing in the gym. That's what I found. They're all doing a light jog. They're all doing concentric exercises, like a very light jog, exercising in the gym. They think they're going hard or something. They're not really going hard. They're going really light. It's just they're wasting their time, man. It's really funny watching them lift too.
get anywhere close to their current potential limit of strength, the body's never under the stress that tells it needs to do any changing. And so it doesn't. And so people can spend hours a week in the gym.
That's right, it doesn't. All their exercises are frivolous, concentric exercise lifting. So it's frivolous, so they're all complaining about fake natties and everything. That's why the industry it's a perversion. The whole fitness industry lives on a perversion of they're not really succeeding because they don't know what builds muscles. They're so dumb. They think eccentric exercise, lifting heavy builds a muscle because they saw some steroid guy. They saw these steroid guys come out and they're like, oh, they're lifting a heavy weight and everything. So that must build their muscles, lifting heavy weights. No, they didn't build any muscle. They just artificially induced sarcoplasmic muscle by taking steroids and lifting. The lifting heavy in their brain, they think lifting heavy is just what's causing the sarcoplasm to increase. Well, in fact, you could have just ate a 100-pound bag of potatoes and then pumped here and there, and it would have gotten big anyways. They're just wasting their time, destroying their bodies, lifting a heavy weight. But whatever, who gives a shit? I don't really care about these people. And then you get these crazy natural people, and they're all like, oh, I thought that, lifting a heavy weight would build my body too, like these steroid people. It doesn't work that way because it didn't work for them lifting concentrically. What makes you think it would work for you? If it didn't work for them, why do you think they took the steroids? To fake it. Because concentric exercise doesn't work. Then they continue in that behavior, concentric lifting. And then when they go off their steroids, they can't figure out where did all the muscle go? Because you didn't build any muscle. Because steroids, they don't build muscles. They don't damage them for you. You got to damage them. If you don't want to damage them, then don't damage them. But don't pretend, don't play like, oh, I lost all my gains. What gains? You never built any gains, stupid.
Gym at this slow cruising pace of a jog, sitting somewhere down here in terms of the limit of their strength, and do that consistently for years and never see changes in their body, never see more definition, more strength, more mobility.
Nope, they don't see any definition, no strength, no nothing, no mobility. I see more definition now, more muscularity, more strength. The more I do my eccentric overload lifting, going back to eccentric overload lifting, I see everything change like crazy now, man. I mean, fucking people are just coming up to me and telling me a bunch of stuff.
Their bodies just stay average as they are.
Yep.
And this can be extremely frustrating when you're putting in lots of time, but not getting a result. And
I know, but they got abs though. That's about it.
An analogy we could use is learning the piano. If all you ever did was play things that were easy for you that you could already play,
that's right,
then you'd never really get any better at piano. You would just stay.
Exactly, you'd be staying in stagnation. If every time you played the same stuff that was easy and playing the piano, you never did anything that was difficult, you'd be in stagnation. Just like lifting, people are in stagnation. They never do things that are difficult because it is quite taxing when you're doing eccentric exercise. It's really difficult, You start moving like, bro, I just move weight like it's crazy. You remember, you can pull more than you can push, But when it comes to pushing, well, then you need some help, or you could just use one arm, use both arms to lift and one arm to lower. See what I mean? So it can be taxing. Most people, they don't like that. They don't want to go through that brutal stage of lifting weight and doing eccentric exercise. They don't even understand it. To them, they don't understand. They think they got to push weights, be comfortable. That's why they just all live in stagnation in the gym, and people don't understand that on my channel. They keep writing me stupid stuff in my comment section. They don't even understand my videos. They keep coming out with their stupid shit about their concentric garbage. Just everything they're doing is just failure. The whole fitness industry, work harder than last time, buy this Turkestron, eat this, do this, eat this estrogenic book, whatever. It's all garbage in the end of the day.
Level you are, unless you're challenging yourself with new things that are outside or at the limits of your current capacity, then there's no learning, there's no adaptation that needs to take place. And so for our training to be effective, we need to be at that struggling, straining, intentional limit where things are difficult, and we've got to figure out, our bodies have to figure out how to adapt to those demands. And if you made this mistake in the past, it's not necessarily your fault. Not only is there a lot of distraction in the fitness world that gets in the way of us focusing properly on this, but there's also a lot of very tangible issues with the approaches of traditional strength training, which make it very difficult to ever do this properly. One huge issue with normal, traditional, fixed resistance strength exercises is that training doesn't rise to match your maximum level of ability as you train. And so it actually takes a lot of time and reps and sets to be able to get glimpses of this limit, which looks like when you fail at the end of a set of bench press for a little fraction.
Yeah, it's an overworking of that muscle eccentrically, not concentrically. If you overwork your muscle or go to failure concentrically, that is associated with metabolic fatigue. Get it? But eccentric exercise, when we're going to failure, that is associated with what? Muscle damage. See, we're trying to fail at lifting so that we can damage the muscle. There's the difference in eccentric lifting. But when people are lifting concentrically and saying they're going to build a muscle because I'm going to go to failure in my concentric lift, well, that's metabolic fatigue is what you're doing. You're fatiguing the muscle, metabolic fatigue. That's associated with sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. That's not myofibrillar hypertrophy. That's the opposite. Because listen to the word, metabolic fatigue. What's sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? It's based on what? Glycogen. For every gram of glycogen, 3 grams of water drawn between skin and muscle into the muscle. See what I mean? That's what you're building there. You're building something artificial. See how funny that is? Now, eccentric exercise, what are you building when you go to failure? Damage. You're building damage in the muscles so you can come back and grow them bigger and stronger in adaptation. There's the difference. And you're going to get more motor units and strength and a bunch of stuff too out of it. Because remember, we keep overloading the eccentric because we want a new adaptation.
Some of those final couple reps, that's the only time we ever get here. And so using a gym, it takes a lot of time, a lot of training to actually get enough of that signal to max out that adaptation for the week. It's like if we were playing piano and only one tiny portion, maybe a couple seconds of a 5-minute song, were actually challenging for us to play, that we're trying to learn. But whenever we rocked up to practice, we were just playing through the entire song. And so most of it's way too easy for us. We're not really learning or improving, signaling any adaptation from our bodies. And that's just to get a glimpse of those couple seconds, which are challenging. But then we have to do the whole song again before we get to repeat that difficult section. You would never practice piano like that. If there was a tiny bit that was difficult, you would just practice it over and over and over and over again until it was great, and then you could put it back into the song and play the whole thing. And that's how we approach strength training. Isolate the work that is actually sending the signal. Don't worry about the rest, just practice it, and then it only takes you a couple minutes for each of your movements for the week rather than an hour. So basically we want our training to always rise to our level whenever we're training so that we can just send the signal and spend the rest of our time on the couch or doing anything else.
I would call these what you call slow eccentrics. Slow, intense eccentrics, which still causes micro damage to the muscles, because it's very taxing, man. This is, for me, calisthenics is very, how should I put it? It really is very, very intense, very, very taxing for some people to do that, because that's based on gymnastics. I mean, when you're lifting in the gym, I mean, you're lifting, but then you're relieving. I mean, he's staying there in that position. I'm not staying there. I'm lifting, damaging, and then I'm resting, then coming back, hitting it again, hitting it again, hitting it again. There's a difference there. But at the same time, he's practicing at getting good at these movements. So he's damaging and getting good at doing these calisthenic movements at the same time. That's the difference. I'm getting good at just damaging using weights. I'm not really getting good in the gym at doing the movements that he's doing. But I will be strong enough to do them because I could carry it over. But I still am going to have to practice, doing a handstand. It's like, if you've never done a handstand before, it's not like you're going to be good at it off the bat. You know what I mean? But you'll be pretty strong at it. See what I mean? You'll just be a little shaky because, that center of gravity, whatever, you have to figure it out. But you'll be very good at it very quickly because eccentric exercises carry it over to every sport.
Than being in the gym, just going through the motions for no reason. The other issue that pops up is training that doesn't lower to that limit. Because if you're trying to train above your capability, well, you're not training because you can't move the resistance. And so there's another common issue with people who do the right thing with this whole idea of intent and max effort, but then don't adjust the difficulty of what they're doing down so that they can actually train through full range of motion and actually get a signal set at all. So if we're up here, nothing's happening. If we're down here, it's useless work. We just want to make sure that we scale up and down with the difficulty of movements so that we have the ability to pour everything in terms of effort, in terms of intent, so that we can get this signal set at the highest strength possible. There's this myth that's promoted everywhere of thinking we need to do so much weekly training because we expect of ourselves to be in the gym 3, 4, 5 hours a week. We rightly so spread ourselves over that so that we can actually last all that training time. There is no possible way that you can train at the limit of your strength for 5 hours a week. You can do it for about 20 minutes and beyond that things become impossible, which is why once you add in rest time and stuff between movements.
That's why when I do a full body workout eccentrically, I start with the muscles that I know that I need the most strength for, like my bench press. I'll do chest first, then I'll move to back, then eventually shoulders, arms, and forearms, and then abs and neck, and then that's it. You go from the biggest to the smallest, the hardest to the biggest to the smallest muscle groups. Now, you can switch them around. If you're lacking in something, you can start with other body parts. But remember, you're compensating now. You're going to have to compensate because you'll be weak. If you did your shoulders or you did like pull-ups on a bar and then you go to do your chest, you're going to be in a weakened state. See what I mean? There's a difference in that in eccentric training. That's the problem.
40 minutes a week is all it ever takes us when we're training constantly at max intensity to get to the point of complete diminishing returns being cooked. You can think of that like if you were sprinting and trying to maintain your max effort sprint, your fastest possible speed. How long do you think you can keep that up for?
You can't.
Not long. Normal gym programs, if you apply this constant max intensity method, are like trying to do an 800 meters or
You can't.
1,000 meters or a couple Ks at a sprint. It's physiologically impossible for you to do that. And so you're setting yourself up right from the outset for disappointment and frustration. I used to have this so backwards, like I feel a lot of people do. I thought it was all programming that mattered and how well your routine was designed. As we were developing this constant max intensity 40 minutes a week method, I started just testing less and less reps and sets each week, seeing what happened. And the more I did that, the more I realized that all the science-based best practice programming didn't really matter for shit, especially when you're adjusting the difficulty yourself. When you're constantly adjusting the load to match your maximum level of strength, numbers, reps, sets, volume all go out the window. In fact, what I found was that trying to hit a certain number of reps and sets each week was getting in the way of me putting in the level of effort that I...
Sometimes, like in eccentric lifting, eccentric overload, sometimes you come into the gym and you exercise, and it could happen already in the first set. You literally can move that weight, and it's so difficult, and you move it for 10 repetitions, it has already caused damage in the muscle. Now, how much damage has it caused? I can't tell you, but it's definitely caused damage there, right? So you could literally do one set of 10 reps for every muscle group, going max all out, and then leave the gym and go home. You could do that. You could do that technically. And then come back and then overload it again. You understand me? Like, in other words, don't do the same exercise with the same weight again. Come back the next day, or I'm sorry, the next day. Come back the following week after you repaired and remodeled, and then just repeat that as well. You could do that technically. You could train like that. You could see what you can get out of doing that. I don't know what you'll get out of that. I do usually do more than that. I've never done it for just one set of 10 reps for each muscle group. I usually do 5 by 10 for each muscle group. I try to really work it to a certain extent. But then again, it's hard to tell, right? Because repeated bout effect, there is a protective effect at some point. Once it gets damaged, it starts protecting against any more damage with repeated bouts when you keep lifting. See what I mean? That's why look, it's something you have to experiment with. You understand me? Yourself. I've never really just done that one set of 10 reps for each muscle group and then left the gym. I could try it, but I don't have time to do all that. Maybe it should. The back of my mind's telling me, yes, it works, but how much damage is there? I can't say for sure. See what I mean? But there's still damage there. See what I mean? Eccentrically, overloading it. And then you come back the following week and now you exponentially go higher each time. You know what I mean? But like I said, I try to cause maximal amount of damage. I need more of it because I never really could go just all out, just that one set when I'm going all out. Even when I'm going all out, it's not particularly all out to me. See what I mean? I don't know. That's just me.
I needed to push progress. It was making me stretch myself out and focus on numbers rather than focusing on intensity, on using the limits of my strength. Once I cut it all the way back to one continuous set per week, per movement, I started going nuts. And that was when I realized that we'd been missing the point the whole time. I was now using strength I didn't even know I had. I was training at levels of intensity that I had never experienced before. And from then on, my strength gain just has never been more consistent, reliable, or easy. Everything that's not those few minutes of max effort work for each of your movements each week is a distraction. It's getting in the way. Because I can tell you this, you will not be able to put in the level of effort needed to push strength gains as fast as possible if you are trying to stretch yourself across a lot of work, if you are trying to do a bunch of sub-maximal work, if you're not able to adjust your movements to match the level of your strength. You need to set your routine up so that it is as simple as possible, as minimal as possible, so that you can focus on the one thing that you've got to do, which is training as hard and as heavy as possible across the full range of motion of the movements that you train. Most people just never even experience
Yeah, I agree.
anything close to what they're capable of in terms of intensity. That's why they don't realize.
Yep, I agree with that too. They never train at that intensity. They never experience it because they never train at that intensity. And I'll tell you why. Because they're always doing concentric lifting. They're never doing eccentric lifting, so they can't experience it. That's their problem because they don't understand it and they don't know. They don't know.
What they're missing, because until you've actually truly pushed the limits of your strength through the full range of motion of an exercise, you just have no idea what it feels like or what you actually are.
Well, and the way I usually train was full range of motion. I did do full range of motion, but I would come in once a week and I would do a 5x10 full range of motion, and that would damage my muscles because I got eccentric, concentric. That's how I explained it on my old videos. That's how I explained it on this channel. But now I'm explaining it that you can do a full eccentric overload exercise. You can overload them. See what I mean? Oh, people get all excited and, oh, I can overload it so I could take a shortcut. Well, yeah, maybe you could call it a shortcut. I don't know. It's still growing, though. It's still growing. The pace that it's growing at, the amount of damage that you get there, I can't really tell you. Nobody can. I don't know what the amount of damage you're creating there doing these eccentric lifts. See what I mean? Can you still get damaged muscles? Can your muscles still damage if you're doing full range of motion? Of course it can. And how do you achieve that? By overworking your muscles on the day of full upper body. No, I'm not talking about like these fake lifters. I'm going doing 3 upper bodies every week, 3 times a week or some bullshit. No, bro. I'm talking about really overworking the muscle, doing eccentric, concentric. You're overworking it, even though you're gonna say, well, the eccentric is not. It's not overloading. It's not that heavy. Yeah, but you don't understand. If you're working every single muscle group, upper, lower, middle, flies, every shoulder group, front, middle, side, back, pressing, behind, front. You're doing your lats, behind, front, close grip, rows, one arm, close grip rows, landmine rows, barbell rows, reverse rows, good mornings. Bro, you're doing your biceps, hammers, front, side delts, this, that, fucking dumbbells, cables, ball. Bro, this is an overworking of your muscle on the day, once a week. And of course, you're going to get this damage. See what I mean? If you overwork it. Now, that's a different technique. The premise is the same. See what I mean? The premise is the same. But we're just doing something slightly different. Now, when you're doing eccentrics now, you're doing an overload eccentric. Well, then you're overloading the muscle eccentrically because you're trying to move for bigger, higher adaptations. You understand me? You're trying to move faster. You're trying to get results faster. See what I mean? I've never moved to me, it's not about being faster. It's about just getting results and doing something specific. Because sometimes you do want the eccentric, but you want the eccentric, but sometimes you want the concentric as well. See what I mean? So you don't have to forego concentric just because you're doing eccentric. You have to understand this training. You have to be very good at doing this training. But if you don't understand it, what did you expect? What do you expect?
Love. Another analogy would be like, that hammer game that you might play at a fair where you have to whack the sledgehammer onto the sensor and it reads how hard you're hitting. When you're going into a set to train, that's the level of intent you want. You're literally trying to generate as much force as you physically possibly can, and you're doing that 20 times throughout the rep at every single point in the range of motion. You're dosing it as hard as possible. You're trying to crank the level of difficulty up to get the highest number that you can, to get the best score possible, to beat what you've done in the past. When I'm training, when I'm doing any of my movements, you can almost see steam coming out my ears. My head looks like it's about to explode. The way I know that my students are really training properly when I watch their videos is because the facial expressions they are making are concerning. There is no hiding the level of effort that they're putting in. They look like they're going through some excruciating exorcism. And despite what that might look like to an outsider who haven't done this before, it's not a negative experience because you're stopping your set as soon as you're actually not enjoying it. But it shows you how hard you have to try to really push this limit. It doesn't happen by itself, and that's why we want to focus on removing every barrier possible that could stand in our way or distract us from putting that level of effort in. And it does take time to learn. Training as heavy as possible is a skill in itself, but as you do get stronger and your body adapts, so you get better with that at using that strength and of exerting that maximum force. And so it's a...
Yeah, he's doing the stuff that I used to do, or that I usually do. He's doing eccentric, concentric, but he's staying in that midpoint. In other words, he's overworking that muscle in that midpoint, doing eccentric, concentric lifting. Because that's really what he's talking about. But in eccentric overload, all of the maximal amount of lift is in the bottom, is in the eccentric now. That's why they call it eccentric overload. But science will tell you, because I brought this out on my old channel. Remember, there was the paper. This guy wrote a paper, and he talks about how to bring this damage, this hyperplasia, by damaging with a partner. He goes, well, if you have a partner there, they can lift, and then you lift and lower, whatever. That's like, again, that's eccentrically, but you don't really need a partner if you just do an overworking of that muscle, because they say in the paper, overworking of that muscle. Now, what does he mean by that? Well, you're still doing eccentric, concentric, so you're overworking it, what? Lifting. That's all you're really doing. So it's not about overtraining. They're talking about overworking that muscle to get it to damage. But what makes it damage? The eccentric. It's not the concentric. The concentric initiates it. You definitely are going to get some, neural drive from the concentric because you haven't forgoed it. So you're gonna get better neural drive too at the same time. You're gonna get eccentric, but you don't really in reality, you don't really need to do that. You know what I mean? That just means you're comfortable at doing it that way. But the fact is, truly eccentric exercise, if you're just doing eccentrics, it's really about the eccentric overload. That's going to take you further and faster, like people doing just concentric lifting. They're doing concentric lifting because whatever, they're trying to strengthen the nervous system and get big. All right. In eccentric exercise, you're going to get more strength for lifting and you're going to get muscle at the same time. So there you go. Very big difference than concentric lifting, just concentric.
Skill that you're forever improving at as you get stronger. I'm still getting better at that, and the better I get at going hard, the stronger I am, the more muscle I have, the better my body looks. It truly is all that matters. We can talk about diet and recovery and how we program those movements in the week, but none of it is relevant if you're not putting in that effort, if you're not testing the limits of your strength, and if you're not improving at it over time. And this is another reason I put so much emphasis on having clear strength goals, because if you don't have a clarity on where you're trying to get that strength to eventually, it's very easy to be lackadaisical. Basically, everything is working against you when it comes to trying to reach the limits of your strength. Everything is trying to make you not work there, either not working at all or just doing sub-maximal stuff that might feel like productive but not be. And so the clearer you can be on the goals that you're trying to achieve with your strength, where you're ultimately trying to get.
Right. So why aren't people that lift concentrically, why aren't their bodies jacked? Why don't they look muscular and jacked lifting heavy weights off the floor like powerlifting? Why don't powerlifters look like calisthenics guy, look jacked and fucking ripped and muscular? Why don't they look like that? Because they're just doing concentric lifting without any eccentric, and so they're not getting any damage in their muscles. They're not really getting physically stronger. They're getting better at lifting a heavy weight. That's the difference. See what I mean? Yeah. I'm not saying that their muscle didn't get slightly strong. It did. It got strong. They didn't build any more muscle, but the muscle that's already there, it got strong. Yeah, lifting that weight concentrically. Nervous system, motor units, and I don't know, whatever, some antigen receptors for binding force and shit and all that, whatever the fuck they're doing there. But their bodies don't match I know, and then they're like, their bodies don't match the lifts. That's why they fake it. They want the body to match the lift. That's why they're jealous of body. Why are these bodybuilders so big and whatever? Well, bodybuilders, the fake ones, they're pumping their muscles up. Sarcoplasmic with sarcoplasm, the sarcoplasm, that's different. You understand me? They're not really damaging and building their muscles big and strong. Muscles don't look like that, dysfunctional. If you build muscle, it's not dysfunctional, and it doesn't get that big, bubbly like the sarcoplasmic look. They get big and dense, but they don't get like round and look weird and puffy and shit. So that's just a bullshit shit, man. The bodybuilding and the powerlifters taking steroids now, trying to fake the physiques to make it match the lift. You're not really strong. You just think you're strong. They're not really strong.
Each of your movement patterns too, it makes it a whole lot easier to focus your training in. And something that can help a lot is just trying to do those goals every time you train, failing, and then having utter clarity as a result on how weak you are in comparison to where you want to be, because then there's no excuse not to be working as close to that limit, that goal limit, as you can be whenever you train, because you're trying to be here. And so if you can't train there, the next best thing you can do is where your current threshold is.
Right.
So an easy way to find that limit is by literally trying the goal, failing, and just scaling back enough that you can move. And so that's the idea. If you can work as hard as possible, if you can use all the strength that you currently have, challenge yourself with every bit of intent you've got, then over time, through successive cycles of maxing out adaptation and overcompensation, over time we get our strength to just keep on increasing and keep on increasing. And because we are always working at our limit, Every time we train, essentially, we should be going slightly harder, slightly heavier, because our strength has improved. So if you always basically focus on getting your sprint to 100%, finding your level of actual muscular failure and working there, then automatically you should find that every time you train, you're coming back a little bit stronger and working at a slightly higher level. And then you look back and see that your strength and physique have been developing in line with that. That's the principle. Work as hard as possible. Remove everything that gets in the way of that. Trying to work too hard and having exercises that don't actually allow you to do that work. Once you understand that principle, all you need is two things. One, a really clear set of strength goals that represent the level up here that you're ultimately trying to build towards. You only need 6 well-selected movements to achieve that. If you want a video running through the ones I use, check that out here. And then you just need to start training each of them once a week, giving it everything you've got every time you train to go as heavy as possible and make that heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier every week. The best.
Yeah, that's what we do in the gym. In eccentric overload, we want to go heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. That's the whole point. That's the idea. See what I mean? That's the idea in eccentric overload training.
Way to do that is to adjust the difficulties you train so that it's never too light.
Now, you're still going, if you were to work out once a week and overwork the muscles with eccentric, concentric lifting like full range, well, you're still going to go heavier and heavier because you're going to get bigger and stronger. That's the whole point. See what I mean? It's going to be a little bit slower. I mean, it's faster doing eccentric overload, but the premise is still the same. You're moving up all the time. It's the idea.
Or too heavy, and that'll allow you to get all this effective signal sent in under 40 minutes a week of training. Got a bunch of videos going through that, so you can start learning about how all that works here, and I hope this helps you start the process of making a lot of strength gains.
Yeah, that was a great video, man. This guy's really smart. I'll see you in the next one. He has a good eye. He understands it, but he never mentioned anything about eccentric overload. He showed it. I mean, it shows on the graph going heavier and heavier. He didn't mention it, but I mean, if you didn't really understand, if you don't understand between concentric, eccentric lifting, then people that are watching this video, they think that, I just have to go heavier and heavier concentrically. They're going to think that in the video, when in fact, it's actually eccentric. And that was the missing key in his video. He never explained to you that. Remember, muscles only ever damage and the growth factors are activated through what? Eccentric exercise. They're not activated. They don't go through anything through the concentric lifting. But people watching this video are going to think, well, I just have to lift heavier concentrically, when in fact, you can lift heavier concentrically, but your physique will never change because it's never gone through physiological changes like from eccentric exercise, which causes physiological changes. The concentric doesn't do that. I'll see you in the next one. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. See you in the next video, friends. Ciao, man.